Welcome back to the Deep Dive. It is great to have you with us. Today, we are taking a trip. We're turning our ears towards the southern part of Africa to answer a pretty specific, but honestly a really fascinating question.
Okay.
How does a single artist become a bridge? I mean, not just a bridge between songs, but between like traditional African sounds and the high-gloss sheen of global pop culture.
It's a massive question.
A huge one.
Right, because usually when we talk about that kind of crossover, that moment where the local, becomes global, we're talking about huge movement.
Yeah, like Afro beats or K-pop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But sometimes you can see the whole mechanism at work in the career of just one person.
And today, that person is Salma Sky. Now, if you haven't heard the name, or maybe you only know the hits, you should buckle up.
Yeah.
We are diving into a really comprehensive profile from the Mplumbe Network that it lays out her whole biography, her discography, and frankly, her cultural footprint.
It's a lot. And looking at this research, you realize this isn't just a story about a singer. It's really a story about identity.
It really is.
And our mission here, I think, it isn't just to, list off a bunch of songs for your playlist.
Although, to be fair, there are plenty of those.
Oh, for sure. We'll get to them. But we want to understand how Salma Sky, who was born Salma Dudia, how she used this really unique multicultural background and a willingness to experiment to basically become a pioneer for R&B in Zambia.
And a major role model for women in the industry there, too. That's a huge part of the narrative.
Precisely. It's about the mechanics of influence just as much as it is about the music. It's about how you build a genre in a place where maybe the infrastructure for that specific sound didn't quite exist yet.
So let's unpack this. You have to start at the beginning, the origin story.
You have to.
Because with Salma, the where she comes from part seems to explain so much about where she went.
It really does. So let's look at the roots. Salma Sky was born in Lusaka, Zambia. But her heritage is this incredible blend. She has a Zambian father and a Lebanese mother.
Wow. That is a mix you don't hear about every day.
No, and it's so significant when you have that kind of dual heritage, especially growing up in a place like Lusaka, you're basically living at the intersection of cultures.
Right.
It often gives artists a unique vantage point, a sort of an inherent ability to see things from multiple perspectives. You're not just locked into one way of hearing the world.
That makes perfect sense. You're sort of a cultural translator from birth. You learn to code switch before you even know what that means.
Exactly. You learn that home can sound like two different things at once, and that adaptability is crucial for what she does later.
Okay.
But what's interesting is that she didn't just stumble into a recording booth with this background. The source material talks about her musical beginnings as being very traditional.
Yeah, this part felt very grounded to me. She started young, singing in church, at school events.
Which is the classic training ground. We see this with Aretha, Whitney Houston, so many of the greats.
Sure.
The church choir isn't just about faith, it's a musical boot camp. It teaches you harmony, blend, and maybe most importantly, how to move a crowd with just your voice.
It's the 10,000 hours rule, right? She was putting in the reps early.
She was.
But, and here's where the story takes a sharp left turn, which I love, she didn't go straight from the choir to the top of the charts. There was a detour.
The hiatus.
Yes. In her early 20s, she actually stepped away from music entirely to pursue a modeling career. And looking at the notes here, she was successful at it.
Which is interesting because usually the industry treats modeling and music as very separate lanes.
Totally separate.
Modeling is all about image, presentation, being silent, really. And music is, well, obviously, it's all about the voice.
That is a great point. She went from using her voice to using her image. But as the profile notes, this was just a temporary gig. The pull of the music was too strong.
It always is for the real ones. But I'd argue that the modeling detour wasn't a waste of time at all. I think it was actually strategic, even if she didn't know it at the time.
How so?
Well, think about modern R&B. It's so visual.
True. Music videos, social media.
By spending time in that world, she learned how to command a camera. She learned about branding. So when she eventually returned to her passion, she wasn't just a singer anymore. She was a package.
She came back ready for the spotlight.
Exactly. And this is the crucial pivot point. She transitioned from Salma Dudia, the model, to Salma Sky, the musician. And the key thing the sources make clear is that she began writing and recording her own stuff.
That agency is key.
It's everything.
That name change really signals a shift in identity, doesn't it? Like, I'm not just the face anymore, I'm the voice. I am the creator.
Absolutely. It's a reclaiming of the narrative. And speaking of narratives, we can't tell the story of Salma Sky without introducing the other half of the equation.
The power couple.
Yes. Enter Tivo Shikapwashya.
Okay, so let's get the facts straight. Tivo is a Zambian musician and producer. They got married in 2013. They have 2 kids. But the source calls them a power couple in the industry.
Right.
And that term gets thrown around a lot, Usually just means 2 famous people dating.
It's usually just a PR thing. But here, the power part implies functionality. It implies creative synergy.
So it's not just about the red carpets.
No. I mean, think about the logistics of making music. It's expensive. It's time-consuming. You need studio time, an engineer, a producer who gets your vision.
Right.
Having an in-house producer, someone who is literally in your house, who is also your partner, that changes the whole game for an artist.
That's true. You're not watching the clock in the studio because you're paying by the hour.
Exactly. It allows for a level of creative control and consistency that is really hard to find otherwise. It creates this feedback loop where they can experiment and fail and try again without a label breathing down their neck.
It creates a safe space to experiment, right?
Right.
A laboratory for sound.
That's the perfect word for it, a laboratory. And that consistency is what allowed them to build a very specific sound.
Which leads us perfectly into the music itself. Let's deconstruct this sound.
Yeah.
Because Zambian R&B, I think a lot of listeners might not know exactly what that means.
Right. Is it just American R&B made in Lusaka?
Yeah, like is it just a carbon copy of 90s TLC or something?
Not at all. And that's what makes her work so interesting. If it were just a copy, we wouldn't be talking about it. The source describes her style as a fusion of Zambian and international influences.
So what are the ingredients in that fusion?
Well, musically, you have the smooth R&B chords, the high production value, the vocal runs. But the rhythm section often borrows from local Zambian sounds. But the biggest indicator of that fusion, for me, and what the research really highlights, was the language.
The linguistic versatility.
This is huge. She sings in English, yes, which opens the international doors. But she also sings in Nyanja and Bemba.
Why is that so important for R&B specifically?
Well, think about what R&B is. It's rhythm and blues. It's a genre rooted in emotion, heartbreak, love, longing. It's intimate. If you just sing that in English in Zambia, you're competing with Beyoncé, with Alicia Keys. You're an import. You're something foreign.
You're an outsider looking in?
Exactly. But when you start weaving in Nyanja and Bemba, you are localizing the soul of it. You're taking those universal feelings and expressing them in the language people use at their dinner table.
The language they fight in, the language they love in.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You are making the genre accessible and resonant in a way that just English can't always touch. You're bypassing the brain and going straight to the heart.
And because the production quality is so high, thanks to Tivo, it still has that global appeal.
Exactly. It doesn't sound lo-fi. It sounds like a hit. She's unlocking the genre for a whole new demographic. She's saying, this music belongs to us too.
And she pairs that with themes that are universal. Love, relationships, social commentary. It's the classic R&B toolkit, but delivered in a voice that is distinctly Zambian. Okay, let's get into the evidence. The hits. Because you don't get called a pioneer if the music doesn't slap.
The receipts, as they say.
The receipts. So the Mpelembe profile points to the breakthrough. The year is 2012. The song is Wonderful World.
This was the catalyst. Wonderful World wasn't just a song people liked. It was the major hit that introduced this brand of R&B to a wider Zambian audience. It set the table.
It showed she could hold a melody, that she had presence. But then, just a year later, 2013, she pivots. She drops Side Chick.
With Tivo, yeah.
And just from the title alone, you know this isn't going to be a polite little ballad.
No, and Side Chick is a masterclass in that fusion we were just talking about. It wasn't straight R&B.
No, the sources say it appealed to dancehall fans, too, which is a completely different vibe.
A very different energy. R&B is smooth, laid back. Dancehall is for the club. By blending those, she showed she wasn't going to be boxed in.
She showed versatility.
And that's a risky move, isn't it, to cross genres so early?
Very risky. You can alienate your core fans.
But if you pull it off, you double your audience. Suddenly you're getting played on pop radio and on the club mix shows. It widens the net.
And then came the album Free E.
Critically acclaimed. And it showed a whole range of R&B sounds. It proved she wasn't a one-hit wonder. An album is the